Hi everybody, Mother Jamie here with your message for this week. Our gospel reading for this Sunday is the familiar parable of the sower and the seeds that Jesus tells. It comes from the 13th chapter of Matthew's gospel, and he talks about how a sower threw seeds, and some of it fell on the path where the birds got it. Some of it fell on rocky ground, sprang up, scorched by the sun, and because it had no roots, it withered. Some fell among the thorns where the seeds were choked, and some fell on good soil where it yielded fruit, some 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. Then Jesus goes on to give an allegorical interpretation of the parable, in which he says that the birds are like the evil one that snatches away some, that the seeds that fall on rocky ground are like those who are enthusiastic at first but turn out to be kind of fair-weather disciples who drift away when the going gets tough, and the seeds thrown among the thorns are like those who are choked by the lure of wealth, but then some falls on good soil, and those are the ones who bear fruit 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. So Jesus offers this allegorical interpretation, but he doesn't give an interpretation for what bearing fruit means, which is very interesting. And furthermore, the word parable means to stand alongside. So even though Jesus offers us one interpretation of what this story could mean, part of the brilliance of Jesus's use of parables in his teaching is that it invites us to keep exploring the ways in which the parables can reveal deeper and deeper meanings for us the more we study them. So looking at this parable a different way, we can think about ourselves as think about the seeds that are scattered and how we respond differently to seeds. For instance, you raise your children the same way, but your children respond differently to different things. We have different interests. We have different motivations. We have different personalities. Even those raised in the same household can turn out very, very differently. So we are different people. And so looking at the parable of the seeds a different way, it invites us to appreciate different ways in which we respond to seeds that are thrown out. If we think of seeds as opportunities or different things that invite us to respond to invitations from God. So I read an interesting book that has given me a lot to ponder spiritually, and I highly recommend that you explore this topic as well. The book is called Creating Luminous Spaces by Maureen K. Calamia, and it is a book about feng shui. Now, I know for most of us, when we think feng shui, we just think decorating, but it's actually much deeper than that. And so this book was wonderfully informative in talking about sort of the 5 elements, and this is kind of going back to Taoism and ancient Chinese medicine, in which illness is defined as an imbalance of elements. And so you look at the 5 elements of the earth. These are the 5 elements that are in us. They are elements that can be tied to different times of the day, different seasons of the year, and so forth. And so looking at these elements, you kind of identify which element is strongest in you and what balance looks like for you, and so on and so forth. So just to give you the barest of introductions, The element of water is associated with winter and the winter solstice, the womb. This is about seeds opening and moving to the surface, and kind of mystery, darkness, the moon, kind of some things that are in nature kind of associated with the feminine. And then the next is wood, the element of wood, and this is associated with spring. Think of growth, a tree shooting up, bursting forth through the surface of the earth. It is about movement, vitality, that kind of initiative, creativity, your visionaries and your people who are going to be surging up. The next element is fire, associated with the summer solstice, heat, burning. This is the heart, the warmth. This is about the life of the party and that kind of energy for life, illumination, connection, relationships, affection, playfulness, warmth, the peak of life. And then we have earth associated with late summer. Earth, of course, that kind of horizontal stability, transition, variety of life, balance, and that kind of middle way of peace and harmony. And then in late autumn, metal. Think of diamonds and other precious metals. This is energy contracting. This is the alchemy of energy contracting, condensing, preparing for the cold. This is sort of that shiny and clear energy of beauty and order and so forth. Fractal patterns and the breeze and the air and the sky. And so I invite you, Google this, 5 elements, feng shui, and discover, I'm sure there are quizzes out there to kind of discover which element is strongest in you and what does balance look like. And then, of course, the whole feng shui thing about decorating your home is about achieving this balance and putting harmony, elements of harmony in your home as well. And one of the reasons I read the book is because, let's face it, we're all spending a lot more time at home. So reading a little something that might give you some ideas about how to order or redecorate your space could be a really cool thing to do right now. So why am I bringing this up, and what does it have to do with Jesus? Well, it is another way it's another tool for self-discovery. And so if we are learning something about ourselves, what we respond to, then it can help us in our ability to grow in a sense of self-awareness, in a sense of well-being, and put us in the best position to be able to bear fruit with the seeds that are planted in us. If our spirits are nourished, then we will be good soil to bear fruit. Secondly, it gives us an opportunity to appreciate others and how all the elements are needed and how all the elements interact and how God designed this marvelous world and us as God's creatures to work together, to complement each other, and to see how fire is a necessary part of nature to clear out the undergrowth, to promote growth, how all of the elements serve a positive function, and in terms of that wonderful, delicate balance. And third, it gives us a reminder that we live in relationship with the elements of nature. We are a part of nature. And we are really bad about remembering that in the West. We tend to think that and especially for Western Christians, we tend to think that nature, we don't see ourselves as an integrated whole. Quantum physics is teaching us that nature is much more sentient than we realize. Now, if that sounds like heresy to you, consider the ancient wisdom of the Bible itself. Our psalm for this week is Psalm 65. And verse 14 says, "May the meadows cover themselves with flocks, and the valleys cloak themselves with grain. Let them shout for joy and sing." Now, we may simply chalk that up as poetic anthropomorphism to say, that the meadows and the valleys will shout with joy and sing. But on another level, it's an ancient, intuitive wisdom that creation shares in the relationship with God just like we do. And so we need to appreciate that, and we need to grow in our ability to be in proper relationship with nature. And, this is not just for tree huggers, it's biblical. And finally, as you are hopefully interested in exploring some of these ideas and looking into feng shui and some other ways in which the elements of nature mirror our very being and are in relationship with our very being, I leave you with this note of encouragement. Our Old Testament reading for this week is part of the end of what we call Second Isaiah. It is Isaiah chapter 55, verses 10 through 13. And in it is that marvelous sentence, "For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace." For you shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. This was written to give encouragement to the captives in Babylon. They shall go out. They shall one day return to Jerusalem. But we can hear that as one day you'll be able to go out of the house and go about your business and go shopping and go to church and do the things you missed doing. You shall go out in joy and be led back in peace. But in the meantime, stay safe, wear your mask, and continue to explore how the world out there and the world inside ourselves are connected and made up of the very same elements. God has created a marvelous world and created us as marvelous beings, and we were created to bear fruit 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. So have fun exploring ways in which you might grow in your ability to do just that. Bye-bye now.